Hey guys, and welcome to today's first impressions video. Today we're looking at Eternal Edge, which recently came out of early access. It's an RPG with many combat elements, and it's pretty basic if I had to give it a descriptor. It's not terrible and it's pretty damn fun, but it feels like it's lacking a lot. As always, we'll look at the settings first, and once we've looked at the settings, we'll look at the actual gameplay. We'll go through the inventory system, the tool system, and the element system, or the eternal system as it's known. And then we'll look at the gameplay, the world, and the combat. So, without any further ado, let's jump straight into it. Alright, so the settings. The first thing I want to mention is that you can't actually access these settings until you're in the game. You have to start a new game to be able to access these at all, which is a little bit weird, and I'm not a huge fan of that, especially if you're running on, say, a low-end PC and you're trying to jump into the game to get to the settings to make it runnable if it's running at like 2 FPS because it's not running great. Honestly, settings should be available in the title screen, and I don't know why they haven't put them there. Outside of that, the actual settings themselves are pretty well balanced. Now, it does start the volume at maximum. You can choose to invert the camera access if you so desire, and your sensitivity starts at 5. You might want to turn that down if you're using a mouse and keyboard. It is a little bit on the sensitive side, but it works very well with a controller. Personally, I've enjoyed playing this game a lot more with a controller. It's a lot less hassle. Things are easier to get to. It feels like it's been built for a controller, honestly. But I'm very happy to say that the tooltips and everything, it switches between them seamlessly and very easily as well. You can choose to have the controls on the heads-up display at all times. This is probably going to be pretty nice for you if you are just starting the game, but once you've got into it, you can turn them off as well, which is equally nice. I like the fact that the option's there. Middle click the camera to move. You're not really going to be using that if you're going to be using your controller, honestly. Camera rotation smoothing. I don't know why that's off by default. We'll switch that on. You can have the camera lock on enemy. I've got that off. You don't really need it. The world is big enough and there's enough of an FOV that you can actually find that. And then you can have sprint, hold, or toggle. I don't know why it's a yes no. Honestly, this should be a toggle and or hold as an option, since that's what the option is personally. And then your graphics. Now this is where things are a little bit less roses, as it were. There really isn't a lot to go through here, which is a shame, because the world, even though it is very sort of 90s stylized, it reminds me of like a Zelda game or something off the Switch. It doesn't mean that you can't make it look better. And again, the more options we've got, the more lower end machines are going to be able to play your game. So you've got your shadow distance here, your terrain shadows, shadow quality, grass distance, bloom, and AA with post-processing as well. And that's it. That's all you've got. There's no real customization here for different things, different draw distances. Like, everything looks fairly low quality. It looks very blocky, like I've said. It doesn't look bad, but it could look better, and you could make it look better and really take advantage of that with the fact this is a game on PC. And that's really about it. What we'll look at now is we'll look at the rest of the start menu, and we'll look at the tools, inventory, and equipment that you have available to you as you go through your quest and how it all sort of interacts with each other. Alright, so the equipment menu. Now, this is a little bit confusing and I've not quite worked it out yet. Each weapon has levels, right? So you can level up the weapon as well as also leveling up your character. But I'm not entirely sure how you level up the weapon yet. We are going to be looking at the crafting menu in a minute, and that will be a blind look through because I personally haven't done that yet. And I would assume that it's very similar to BDO in that you level up your weapons by putting items in to be able to upgrade them and make them level up, because I've done a lot of battling and the only person that's leveled up is myself. As you can see, the swords here both say level 1, 0 XP of 5. So I'm assuming I probably have to put the swords into each other to level them up, which is fine and would make sense as to why it gave me 2 iron swords at the very beginning. Also, you can get variations of the iron sword, which again I assume you get through crafting, although you can get them from weapon drops. If I had a criticism of this, I would say the name is very misleading. Apparently the decaying sword gives you a decent chance of slowing an enemy, which is kind of cool. However, you pick up a sword and it's called decaying iron sword, you're automatically going to think, well, that's not as good as the iron sword I've got. So maybe they could work on the naming a little bit. Just a personal quip. It's nothing, it's not game breaking or anything. And then as you can see, you've got your shield and your armor as well. Then we look at tools. Now this is a little bit frustrating, this menu, I'm not going to lie. You've got your bottom one here, and then your top one here, and then your 3 here, and then your 3 here. So they're obviously done by, they've been separated by function, right? However, I feel that maybe if they just had all of this as one inventory slot for tools, and then you could place them wherever you wanted to on the screen, would be a much better way of doing it. The other problem I've got is that it doesn't tell you how to use them. You have to figure it out, which is a problem because this button here is actually the top directional pad, right? It's the up one, but there's no indication of that. And even on the quick menu or the heads up display menu that tells you what the buttons are, it just comes up with the directional pad. It doesn't tell you which part of the directional pad you're supposed to play. And when I was playing earlier, I went in against a boss battle, tried to use my potions, couldn't use my potions because I didn't know what button I was pressing, and promptly died. All it would need is a little mark or a highlight of some description on the top one to allow the player to know instantly what button it is they're pressing. But it looks like you get a decent number of collectibles and tool items that you can switch between to make your journey better, as it was. And then finally we have the inventory screen. Now this is where you're going to get a lot of your crafting materials. I'm going to go ahead and assume that these mean that they are for crafting. This is for your essence, and then this is just a herb. I don't know whether that means I can just straight up use it or not. I'm not entirely sure. And then you've got these slots down here. So the game has a lot going for it. It's got a lot of depth from a seemingly shallow perspective. But I feel like it could probably be fine-tuned just a little bit more to make it easier for a player to get to grips with everything that's going on. Let's take a look at the crafting menu, which, like I say, will be a blind look for me as well, and see if we can't see what that's like. Alright, so the crafting menu seems fairly simple, and I'm assuming that I have to find tools in order to be able to actually craft them, right? So once you've found the pumpkin bomb, you can then craft it, but you can't craft other items until you've discovered it, which isn't that uncommon. What I do like is the fact that it tells you what you need in order to make it, right? So I need a fuse, and in order to make the fuse, I need coconut and cotton. So you've got to find those items from around the world. And then to make the lesser potion of life, you do need the medical herb, which kind of counteracts, I should say, what I said in the inventory, because everything else had a crafting logo on it, and yet the medical herb didn't. And I feel that, again, that's just a little bit misleading. I feel like if it's a craftable item, show it as a craftable item, whether it's a herb or not. Just a personal thing from me. However, it doesn't look like this is where you can upgrade your weapons, so that is going to have to remain a mystery for now until I figure it out later. But yeah, so there's your crafting menu. Let's look at the gameplay, the combat, and the world in itself. Alright, so we're here. We are in the world. As you can see, the graphics are quaint. They're very cute. The world is very bright. It's very vibrant. It's got loads of like little particle effects around the world. It's not, it's not anything that's groundbreaking or incredible, but it's not bad either. Like, it's a pretty game. It's something that I could very easily see myself enjoying and wanting to explore. Now, combat wise, it's more than a little bit disappointing. It is very simplistic, it's very basic. It is there's no real specialty. It doesn't look like there's any magic abilities that you can do, no different classes. You are a warrior through and through. You've got your sword, your shield, and then your armor. What's nice is it does seem to change the character appearance, which is something I would expect. However, the levels are a grind from the get-go, which is a bit of a shame. In most RPGs I've played, the early, 10 to 20 levels are something that the game encourages the player to go for because it will allow you to make progress early on, but it's also pretty quick, right? It doesn't take long to get from level 1 to level 2. However, the grind in this game to level up is incredibly obvious from the get-go. These enemies give virtually no XP, and if you're only gaining 2 to 4 each time, and you have to get to 340 XP to get to level 3, it makes me a bit worried about how much XP you're going to require to get to level 50, right? And the other problem I've got is, outside of the fact that you've only got like a 1, 2, 3 combo, the enemies are dumb. The everyday enemies they're not smart. They don't do a lot of damage. They just don't do anything at all, really. You just run up, collect the pumpkins, and away you go. However, the bosses are something completely entirely different. The bosses are a real challenge. They do a lot of damage. They have different movesets. They require some skill and some thinking and some potions. You will require those potions to be able to get through. Also, the XP scaling doesn't seem to make a lot of sense either. You can go against the same enemy and you'll get more XP one time, and then go against them again, you'll get less XP. Yet it's the same enemy that's just respawned. So whether they're respawning at different levels or not, I'm not entirely sure. The other thing is, there does seem to be some puzzles, and I'm not entirely sure how they work. They seem to be like push puzzles, but for some reason I get up and he doesn't push it, and I get up on this one and the same thing. Like, it doesn't seem to want to move. So again, there's some things that just need sort of working out and doing, because they really don't make a lot of sense. And again, the combat could be really, really fun in this game. However, it just kind of isn't, because it's very basic and it's very repetitive. Overall, this is a game that I can see myself playing. It's a game that I can see myself relaxing to and chilling out. If I don't want to think about anything, if I don't really want to strategize too much, if I just want to have a good time playing a fairly cute and quaint story and not really delving too deep into anything. I feel that there are definitely some improvements that can be made, but on the whole, for the game that it kind of is, it's alright. It does the job. It scratches that old school RPG itch with some real-time combat. I think that a few more combos added in, a better upgrade system for weapons, and the settings being put in the title screen, and you're on to a winner. So there you are, guys. This is the Eternals. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.